Imagine walking into any room and instantly knowing what everyone is thinking and feeling. It sounds impossible, but Nietzsche's powerful insights into human psychology will make it your reality. You have the power to read people like an open book. You just haven't learned how. Today, I'm sharing Nietzsche's 25 psychological truths, each revealing a hidden layer of human behavior. By the end, you'll not only see through others, you'll uncover truths about yourself you never knew existed. This video is an extensive evaluation broken down into 3 impactful sections, each of which builds on the one before it.
If you skip ahead in the video or miss a step, you'll lose the deeper insight that makes this actually work. So stay with me, because by the end of these 3 parts, you won't just read others, you'll see yourself in ways you never imagined.
From an early age, individuals are conditioned to trust spoken language. Words function as the primary medium of communication. Yet, Nietzsche cautioned against accepting them at face value. He argued that people often communicate not from a place of authenticity, but from mechanisms rooted in self-preservation, ego, and fear. What is frequently perceived as personality is in fact a form of psychological armor. An individual who presents as excessively kind may, beneath the surface, be motivated by a profound fear of rejection. Similarly, those who appear outwardly strong may be concealing internal vulnerabilities. Perhaps the most deceptive aspect of human behavior is that these patterns are often unconscious. Most individuals adopt roles shaped by the need for psychological safety, roles they did not consciously choose. Consequently, people are not intentionally concealing themselves from others. Rather, they are concealing themselves from their own awareness. Nietzsche famously asserted that every profound spirit needs a mask. This statement was not intended as a critique, but rather as a cautionary observation. One must be careful not to mistake the external persona for the authentic individual beneath it. What is often overlooked is that individuals unconsciously reveal their inner truths, not necessarily through explicit language, but through subtle, unintended behaviors. These truths emerge in fleeting moments, in diverted glances, disproportionate laughter, or abrupt changes in conversation when topics become emotionally charged. 1. Guilt hides behind false confidence. Nietzsche recognized this tendency in authority figures such as leaders, educators, and religious figures. Those who publicly display unwavering certainty are frequently motivated by an underlying fear of exposure. Persistent or performative confidence can serve as a psychological strategy to suppress unresolved guilt, whether rooted in past actions, personal regrets, or a disowned aspect of the self. Genuine inner peace does not require constant performance. Thus, when encountering excessive displays of confidence, it is not cause for intimidation, but rather an invitation to inquire more deeply.
Number 2. The harder someone clings to certainty, the more they fear the unknown. Nietzsche cautioned that absolute certainty frequently functions as a psychological defense rather than as evidence of genuine wisdom. When an individual exhibits rigid, unquestioning beliefs and asserts their opinions as incontrovertible facts, this behavior should not be mistaken for authentic confidence. More often, such rigidity reflects underlying fears: fear of uncertainty, fear of losing control, and fear of acknowledging the inherent unpredictability of existence. Nietzsche maintained that intellectual maturity necessitates an acceptance of ambiguity, whereas inflexible certainty often conceals deep-seated insecurities. Therefore, when encountering someone firmly entrenched in their beliefs, it is instructive to consider: what internal disorder or existential fear might they be attempting to suppress? 3. People don't avoid vulnerability because they're strong. They avoid it because they still believe it's weakness. Nietzsche asserted that genuine human connection emerges through vulnerability. Yet cultural narratives frequently equate openness with weakness. Those who habitually conceal their emotional states, whether through humor, intellectual distancing, or affective detachment, are not invulnerable. They are shaped by the enduring belief that revealing one's inner self inevitably results in harm. To understand this is to reframe emotional distance, not as an act of rejection, but as a strategy for psychological self-preservation. In this light, true bravery does not reside in those who remain hidden, but in those who risk being seen. 4. Everyone wears a mask to survive, not because they're fake, but because they're scared. To get by in society, people often build versions of themselves that they think others will accept and approve of. These masks help them fit in and feel safe, but they're never completely foolproof. Sooner or later, these masks slip or crack, usually showing up as moments of discomfort or unease. When someone feels tense, awkward, or uneasy, that's often the first real glimpse of who they truly are beneath the surface. Paying attention to these moments can reveal much more about a person than what they openly say or show. It's in these small signs, those subtle shifts and breaks in their usual behavior, that the authentic self begins to peek through. Number 5. Where someone feels superior, they're hiding inferiority. Nietzsche believed that displays of superiority are often a form of overcompensation. When someone constantly brags about their achievements, it's usually because deep down they fear they aren't enough. Likewise, if a person frequently puts others down, it often masks a fear of being ignored or overlooked. Genuine confidence doesn't need to compete or prove itself. It simply exists. So if you encounter someone who feels the need to dominate, control, or constantly prove their worth, look beyond the surface. Behind the throne, you might find a scared child trying to protect themselves. Reading people isn't about judging or labeling them. It's about understanding what's at their core. For example, when someone interrupts repeatedly, it's not always arrogance. It could be a fear of being forgotten. When someone constantly posts about their happiness, it might be a silent cry for help. And when someone avoids eye contact while insisting, "I'm fine," pay attention to their body language, not just their words. These insights shouldn't be used to manipulate others, but to extend compassion. The clearer you see someone, the less likely you are to resent or judge them. That's Nietzsche's real lesson. He didn't want you to see through others to control them, but so you wouldn't be fooled and could genuinely connect. If you've ever felt like you were only seeing the surface of someone or wished you could understand what's really going on beneath the mask, share your experience in the comments. Let's talk about those moments when people revealed the truth without saying a word. If this helped you view people differently, subscribe. There's much more ahead, and you'll want to discover the rest of Nietzsche's truths. Noticing a mask is one thing, but witnessing it crack is something else entirely. If you've paid attention, you've likely seen it. That brief flash of discomfort when someone's beliefs are challenged, the subtle shift in tone when a topic gets too close, or the nervous laugh that doesn't quite fit the moment. These aren't random slips, they're clues. Once you learn to recognize them, you'll realize people aren't difficult to read. They're simply afraid to be truly seen. In part 1, we explored how people build personas to protect themselves. Now, in part 2, we dig deeper into the moments when those personas begin to falter. Nietzsche believed that the self isn't a fixed entity, but a performance, a patchwork role designed to survive life's challenges. And when that performance is threatened, the truth inevitably leaks out. Most human actions are driven by fear. Let's start here because it's more universal than you might think. 6. When someone fears being forgotten, they chase attention. Ever met someone who always needs to be seen? Every room they enter, every story they tell, every outfit they wear screams, "Notice me." At first glance, it looks like confidence, but Nietzsche saw through it. He believed that the hunger for attention often comes from a deeper fear, the fear of being invisible, of being erased, of living and dying without leaving a mark. People create noise not because they love it, but because they can't bear the silence. The child who is ignored becomes the adult who overcompensates. Instead of asking for love directly, they demand it indirectly through performance, drama, or chaos. So when you see someone who's too much, don't be quick to judge. Ask what they're afraid will happen if they're not enough. Because sometimes attention isn't vanity, it's a cry. 7. Excessive virtue is often disguised vanity. Be wary of the person who loudly proclaims their purity, the one always correcting others, always preaching. Nietzsche called this the will to power in disguise. Sometimes morality becomes a mask for superiority. The louder the virtue signal, the more likely something is being hidden behind it. Real goodness doesn't need applause. 8. Their patterns are a confession, if you know how to listen. People don't always know how to express what hurts, but they will show you again and again through patterns. A person who ghosts when things get close, a person who overworks to avoid stillness, a person who flirts with everyone but connects with no one. These aren't random behaviors, they're confessions. They're saying, "This is how I protect myself." They're saying, "This is where I was hurt." They're saying, "This is what I fear repeating." Nietzsche believed that if you learn to listen deeply, not to words but to patterns, you can hear the truth before it's spoken. When you do, something amazing happens. You stop personalizing, you stop judging, you start understanding.
You become a mirror, not a weapon. You become someone who sees and still chooses grace. And that, more than any tactic or trick, is what makes you powerful. You're not just reading people, you're remembering yourself. 9. People don't lie to you first, they lie to themselves. This changes everything. The lies you hear, I'm fine, I'm over it, I don't care, aren't lies to hurt you. They're lies they've rehearsed so often they believe them. Nietzsche understood self-deception not as evil but as defense, a way to keep functioning in a painful world. So when someone's story doesn't quite add up, don't assume they're trying to deceive you. Realize they've been doing it to themselves far longer. The inconsistencies reveal the truth. 10. Silence reveals more than words. Nietzsche didn't believe truth came from talking. In fact, he saw language as a tool of the herd, often used to avoid confronting reality. When someone pauses before answering, when they dodge certain topics, when they give short, rehearsed replies to deep questions, that silence is louder than speech. A person avoiding vulnerability is revealing everything about what they fear. 11. Most actions are driven by unconscious fear. Ask yourself this: why does someone over-explain? Why do they dominate a conversation or disappear completely? Why do they say yes when they clearly mean no? Fear of abandonment, rejection, humiliation, failure. Nietzsche knew that humans rarely act from pure desire. They act from a deep fear of loss, of status, of love, of self-worth. So when you want to read someone, stop focusing on what they say they want. Instead ask, what are they afraid of losing? That's where the truth lives. Criticism is a mirror. Next time someone constantly critiques others, listen closely. 12. What someone hates in others reveals what they're hiding in themselves. Projection. When someone constantly mocks arrogance, they're often insecure about their own self-worth. When someone can't stop pointing out dishonesty in others, they're usually hiding a truth they haven't faced. We hate in others what we're afraid to admit in ourselves. So when you want to read someone, don't just look at what they admire, look at what they criticize, and why. 13. Exaggeration reveals the hidden truth. This one is subtle but powerful. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Someone who constantly says, I don't care what anyone thinks, likely cares deeply. Someone who claims, I'm always happy, likely isn't. Exaggeration is a tell. It's the ego trying to drown out doubt. Nietzsche believed that extremism in any direction is a form of imbalance, not strength. So when someone's statements sound too absolute, don't believe the content. Read the insecurity underneath. Exaggeration is volume, but ask, what are they trying to silence? 14. The louder the performance, the emptier the core. Look at social media, the endless look-at-me energy, the perfect poses, the constant updates, the curated identity. Nietzsche didn't see this as strength, he saw it as desperation. When someone is constantly performing, it's because they don't believe they'll be seen or loved without it. So they create noise, color, drama. But the person who truly knows themselves doesn't need to be watched. They're already whole. When someone's life looks like a performance, remember, it's not a show of power. It's a whisper of need. Putting it together, you're probably starting to feel it now. The shift. You walk into a room and suddenly the patterns speak louder than the words. You see someone interrupting constantly and realize they're terrified of being forgotten. You see someone who boasts endlessly and sense their invisible wound. You're not reading minds, you're reading the mask, and Nietzsche gave you the flashlight. This isn't just a skill, it's a responsibility, because once you learn to see people clearly, you can't unsee it. You'll begin to understand that most people are suffering quietly behind polished smiles. Reading them is not about gaining leverage, it's about offering grace. When you see the child behind the critic, the fear behind the bully, the guilt behind the arrogance, you don't become weaker, you become unshakable. Want more? If this part of the video opened your eyes, wait until the final part, because in part 3, we strip away the final layer. We'll explore how people's deepest childhood wounds show up in their adult personalities, how their envy, their silence, their need to be remembered, all reveal their soul. You'll learn the final 6 truths that make you see people with absolute clarity, but more importantly, you'll understand yourself. By now, something in you has shifted. You don't just see people, you read them. Not as villains, not as victims, but as humans trying to survive with masks they didn't even choose. But we're not done yet, because behind every behavior is a belief, and behind every belief is a wound.
This final part is about learning to recognize the soul, the deep story that hides underneath the surface of everyone you meet. Nietzsche didn't just expose people's patterns, he illuminated where those patterns come from. Let's finish what we started. 15. When someone criticizes too much, it's projection. The man who mocks emotional people might be terrified of his own feelings. The woman who belittles others for their appearance might be locked in a secret war with her reflection. Nietzsche said that judgment is almost never about the other, it's about the self. So when you hear repeated criticisms, don't be distracted by the target. Instead, trace the line back to the speaker. What part of them are they trying to disown? Projection isn't just a defense mechanism, it's a confession. If you listen right, it tells you exactly where someone's pain lives.
60. How someone reacts to weakness reveals their power. Want to truly see someone's character? Don't watch how they treat powerful people. Watch how they treat someone who can't fight back. Nietzsche believed that real strength isn't proven through domination, it's revealed through restraint. If someone mocks vulnerability, they're afraid of their own. If someone punishes mistakes, they likely weren't allowed to make it. If someone always wins but leaves others bleeding, they're still at war with themselves. But the person who can witness weakness without judgment, who can sit with sadness without running away, who can forgive what they could have punished, that's someone who is no longer ruled by the past. They don't need to prove anything because they've already won the inner war. So if you want to read someone, give them a moment where compassion is an option.
17. The person they attack is often the person they envy. One of Nietzsche's boldest truths, and one of the hardest to admit, is this: people don't always attack because they hate. They often attack because they admire but feel they can never be. Criticism is easier than admiration. The person who tears down someone successful, who mocks someone confident, who gossips about someone free isn't just mean, they're in pain. To see someone embody a part of you that you've abandoned is to be reminded of what you've lost. Instead of celebrating the other, we destroy them. But envy is just unspoken desire. It's the soul saying, I want that too, but I don't believe I'm allowed. If you can see this in others, you can do that. 17. The person they attack is often the person they envy. One of Nietzsche's boldest truths, and one of the hardest to admit, is this: people don't always attack because they hate. They often attack because they admire but feel they can never be. Criticism is easier than admiration. The person who tears down someone successful, who mocks someone confident, who gossips about someone free, isn't just mean, they're in pain. To see someone embody a part of you that you've abandoned is to be reminded of what you've lost. Instead of celebrating the other, we destroy them. But envy is just unspoken desire. It's the soul saying, I want that too, but I don't believe I'm allowed. If you can see this in others, you become immune to petty hate. If you can see this in yourself, you become free. 18. Those who seek control often fear inner chaos. Nietzsche saw this clearly. When the inner world is disordered, the outer world must be managed obsessively. If someone micromanages every detail, if they can't handle change, if they dominate people to feel powerful, it's not because they're strong, it's because something inside them feels out of control. So instead of fearing the controlling person, see them for what they are, someone terrified that the moment they let go, it will all fall apart. The stricter the outer shell, the more fragile the inner self. Performance masks emptiness in disguise. This is one of Nietzsche's most haunting insights, and it applies more today than ever. It's said, 19. People act out their childhood, not their beliefs. You've heard it said, people don't change. Nietzsche would say people repeat. They repeat the roles they were forced to play, the fears they were taught to carry, the dynamics they never escaped. A person who was never heard becomes someone who never listens. A person who was punished for expressing emotions becomes cold, logical, detached. A person who had to earn love becomes someone who performs for affection, even when it's toxic. They think they're acting from beliefs, but really they're reenacting the past. So if you want to read someone, don't just look at who they are, ask who they had to be, because behavior is just biography, and behind every adult is a child still waiting to feel safe. 20. No one speaks from logic, they speak from pain. You might think that people are rational, that they argue based on facts, make decisions based on reason. Nietzsche believed otherwise. Underneath every logical argument is an emotional wound. A person might say, "I don't believe in love, it's just a fantasy," but listen closely. They're not stating a fact, they're protecting a pain. People form their views based on what hurt them, then justify those views with logic. So when you want to understand someone's worldview, don't just ask what they believe. Ask what broke them. Ask what scared them. Ask what they never want to feel again.
This changes everything. It shifts your focus from why are they saying this to what are they afraid of repeating. Suddenly their opinions aren't threats, they're defenses, their arguments aren't attacks, they're shields. When you see that, you stop reacting, you start understanding.
21. Overcompensation is just disguised shame. When someone constantly projects success, perfection, or strength, they're often trying to bury shame they don't want seen. Nietzsche believed humans layer achievements over their insecurities. The person endlessly proving themselves isn't proud. They're exhausted from running from what they fear might be true, that they're not enough. Real self-worth is quiet. Performance is noisy. When someone overcompensates, look beneath the act. Their shame is whispering.
22. Sarcasm is often repressed sadness in disguise. Humor can be healing, but Nietzsche warned that humor can also be armor. Sarcasm, cynicism, and deflection are frequently shields, protecting unexpressed sadness. The person making the sharp joke, the cutting remark, the one who laughs at pain, they're often carrying wounds they never processed. Sarcasm says, "This hurts more than I'm willing to admit." If you can hear the sadness behind the sarcasm, you stop reacting and start understanding. 23. Constant busyness hides fear of stillness. Nietzsche saw modern life as a constant escape. The person who can't slow down, who fills every moment with tasks, noise, distractions, they're not driven by productivity alone, they're driven by fear. Fear of silence, fear of reflection, fear of confronting who they are when everything else stops. Stillness is where the unprocessed self speaks. So when someone avoids quiet, they're not just busy, they're scared to be still. 24. Mocking dreams reveals abandoned potential. Nietzsche believed resentment reveals lost parts of the self. When someone mocks ambition, belittles creativity, or attacks those chasing their dreams, it's rarely about the dreamer. It's about their own abandoned potential. We ridicule in others what we buried in ourselves. The critic of dreamers often carries dreams they deemed impossible. Their hate is grief wearing a mask. See this, and you soften toward the critic, and maybe toward your own lost dreams too. 25. Emotional detachment often hides emotional overload. The person who feels nothing, expresses nothing, connects to nothing, and not always cold, they're overwhelmed. Nietzsche believed emotional numbness often follows emotional drowning. When feelings become unbearable, the mind shuts down to survive. So the detached person isn't always unfeeling, they're protecting a part of themselves that's overloaded, unprocessed, or never felt safe. Emotional walls aren't proof of strength, they're survival scars. Take a moment to pause and reflect. The truths we've explored aren't only about others, they reveal parts of yourself, your habits, fears, and early life experiences. The clearer you understand others, the clearer you understand yourself. This isn't the conclusion, it's the start of a new perspective. Nietzsche's aim wasn't just for us to observe others, but to awaken, to realize that the judgments we make reflect what we carry inside, and the qualities we admire are what we aspire to become. If this video resonated with you, if you saw yourself or others in these truths, don't keep it to yourself. Share in the comments which of these insights impacted you the most. Together, let's create honesty in a world full of masks. And if this message spoke to you, subscribe. This is only the beginning of uncovering what's hidden and becoming your true self. If you've enjoyed this video, then you'll definitely enjoy the video showing on your screen right now. Click now and we'll see you in the next one.